Portland. And I am the first one to get the IDSA National Merit Award, so that's also a great honor and slightly terrifying. I have a few things to talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first project I have is a handlebar redesign. We were basically told to get a bike. And one of the things that I found out, since I haven't ridden a bike in about 15 years, is that it's really fun. I was taking jumps and skidding around and doing a bunch of stuff that a full-grown man shouldn't do on a bike, but it was a lot of fun. But aside from it being fun, it was also kind of scary. Out where I live, there's a lot of SUVs, a lot of big cars, not very many safe sidewalks or places to ride your bike. So it was kind of dangerous. And also, apparently, I live in a crater, because everywhere I wanted to go on my bike was on the other side of a freaking hill. So what was always happening is basically I would end up throwing my bike to the back of a car or getting on the bus or getting on the train and going someplace else and riding where it was more interesting, more safe. So I decided to make a handlebar project that actually kind of supported that idea. So the collapsible handlebar is what came out of this. We basically started with a handlebar that folded up. And it was a great idea, and I was like, cool, but I need to figure out a way to make it actually usable. And as I was thinking about it, I had a bottle of wine, and was playing with the bottle opener. I'm like, hey, this thing has gears, and it does exactly what I want my handlebar to do. So I grabbed a scrap of paper, and I made myself this handy sketch, and the very helpful note that says, make this, which I did. I grabbed some foam core, started mocking it up, and came up with that bottom sketch, which was quickly dubbed the thumb grabber. So obviously I had to kind of go back and relook at my design a little bit, and I looked at some of what bikers already knew with their rides. And so I looked at this kind of cam clamp idea and said, well, maybe I can apply this to this actual project. So again, grabbed the back of an envelope, and I actually came up with an idea to split the neck using this cam that everybody knows how to use on a bike, and combined it with a new kind of gear that had these little dovetails on the end, so everything kind of bit down really tight and it was really firm. And drew up a next drawing, and it basically turned into this. So I did a final design, and it's branded with Electra, because they're kind of the company that would really go for this kind of casual rider as opposed to someone who's really serious. So someone who would, want a handlebar that could fold up and could store their bike and be a really simple concept. So that's the first project. Second project, this was a group project that I did in combination with Tobias Berlinger and Jeff Deutschler. We're out in the crowd somewhere. Basically, we got a design brief that we had to make a multifunction device. It had to be a camera, it had to be a GPS unit, a digital planner, and a voice recorder. So the first thing we did was we got together as a group and said, how the heck are we going to do this? We really hate multifunction devices, they never work, what can we do? So after we were done complaining, we decided that why multifunction devices don't really work that well is because usually they're buried, like the functions that you need are buried within menus, or the buttons are hard to find, or let's face it, they just don't work that well. So we wanted to focus on probably one or two things that really kind of stuck with us. And what hit us hard was the idea of using a camera that had an integrated GPS unit. So when you took a picture, you knew exactly where you were at the time you took the picture. It would be used for people who are doing scouting or people who are doing geographic scouting or locations, stuff like that. Jeff is the one who actually did most of the sketches there. We just kind of sat down and just went through a bunch of stuff and trying to figure out, how is this thing going to work? I did the first form model on the left and found out that that was kind of not really the best way to go. But what it did is show us that, having the camera controls out in the open, but still kind of hidden and separated is really what we were going for. So we ended up doing this, I ended up doing this sketch in the middle, which showed that, and that turned into the form model, and then we went to work. So Tobias and Jeff sat down and started mapping out the actual functions for this, and I started working on the model. That's me there working on the milling machine, and it turned into this. So this is the Scout. Basically, you can see it's everything that I talked about. All the camera functions are hidden until you need them, and there's a definite design language that describes where it is. So you see this orange section that looks like it's supposed to do something, and this little arrow that you pull out, and hey, it's a camera. So it's a pretty successful, fun little project. So the last one I want to talk about is actually my senior project. This one we just started last quarter getting through the design phase, and we're now actually in the research phase, and we're now into the design phase. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit. I don't have a lot of design just yet, but it's a really interesting process anyway. basically the opportunity on this one is lack of funding for music education. It's kind of turning into music into a commodity where people are just not really that interested anymore. It's kind of an apathetic user base, and it's really a little bit sad. So I wanted to find a way to get people more involved in the act of actually making music again. So my solution for this is bringing together social network aspects which people actually know how to use already, and combine that with a new type of musical instrument that will interact with this online kind of feature to where you can talk to your peers, you can play music in groups, and people who aren't even in the same room, and you can learn from people who are very far away. So this is a kind of a little graph of like how it is now compared to how I would like music education to be. Right now it's a very linear process. You kind of start by getting an instrument, which is cost prohibitive, and you start learning stuff, like you learn rhythm scales, basically exactly what you need to get a recital out. And then you go on to the next recital, and then you start getting bored, and it's junior high, and girls start coming in the picture, and they're just like, oh, this isn't that cool anymore. So the new way that I'm looking at it is I want to have kind of a target-based system where you can go back and forth, and you can try, you know, if you want to learn about melody, if you want to learn about style, you can hit these different targets and explore different aspects of music without having to have this linear progression that, you know, if you haven't passed this, you fail and you're done. So how's it going to happen? Well, this is, like I said, I just started the design phase, and even this is a couple days old, so there's even more instruments. I get asked all the time, is this going to be like Guitar Hero? No. There's going to be, I'm trying to be a lot more analogous to real instruments, not just clicking buttons and tapping in time to music that other people have played. Again, creation is really what's important in this. So all of these instruments kind of support that concept. But what's really important for me in this company, and even in terms of this entire conference, is the sustainability of this. You saw all those little instruments up there. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be out in the environment, so I want to find a way to be able to loop that back into the producing company, or even back into the user base. So if somebody gets to a point where there's a reduced desirability and they just don't want this thing anymore, they can actually go online, trade it back into the user base, and have someone else create something new out of it. It can be, you know, they can use the same instrument, or they can rip it apart and make something new. So it's kind of a really interesting concept of having, you know, a way to return stuff, not just something sitting out there and going into a landfill automatically. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.